Yeah. So today I want to talk about something that I don't see a lot of people touch on and shit, but it was something that was I wouldn't say like too common, but it wasn't unusual to see in YA and shit, or at least in Nellis, and that was hood hopping and shit. Now people probably, people waiting from the streets probably wondering what's hood hopping. Now hood hopping is when you basically join one gang, and then you decide to, basically denounce that gang and join another gang. I mean, fucking, like that shit's, like I said, it wasn't too common, but it wasn't that unusual and shit. The first time I seen that shit was actually a guy I knew from the streets, and when I first met him, he was claiming a gang from Whittier and shit, and it was a trip because I knew him from the streets and shit. So we would fucking, chop it up and shit. Like we went to the same school. We both went in alternative junior high school and shit. So we knew each other. We would chop it up and shit. And then I was in the halls and shit. It was me, my boy Quickie, rest in peace, and Nomi Turtle. We were all going to court and shit. And it was a trip because fucking Quickie and Turtle were across the hall from me. They were bunked up. We were all in the rooms waiting to go to court before they shackled us up, took us to home to court and shit. And I'm in the room with this guy and shit. And like I said, I knew him from the streets, so I'm chopping it up with them. And I'm like, hey, what's up with your homie Sparky and shit? Because I knew his boy Sparky. And he's like, Sparky from where? And I told him, from your neighborhood and shit. I'm talking about, he was from a gang in Whittier. And he's like, oh, I ain't from there anymore. I was like, what? So where you from? And he basically said he's from East LA gang and shit. But it was an East LA gang that my neighborhood wasn't too friendly with and shit. So I told him, hey, check this shit out. We got to get down, fool. And he's like, what? Why? We were cool. We're cool. I said, man, hey, fool, you ain't from the right area. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's rock and roll time. So we got down and shit, whatever. That was our thing and shit. We went to court. He ended up, going to court acting like he was all tough. And they ended up separating him from us and shit. And, yeah, so that was the first time I seen it. I was like, damn, that's fucking weird and shit. But then I seen it a lot more in SR, in reception. Like I would see, and it wasn't just like it was crazy, I'm telling you, because it wasn't just, and I had talked about another guy before, Gomez, who was like notorious for this shit. And this is like it was crazy because he was one of them. I told you he's playing Playboys. Then he ended up saying from Playboy Gangsta Crip. And you seen a lot of that shit where people would be from one organization. You would see people who were like Crips. Then there'd be Bloods and shit. People that were Bloods, then there'd be Crips. You would see fucking, like, I knew there's this guy from Horchentas and shit. He ended up being like a Crip and shit. And you would see a lot of that shit. You'd be like, damn, like Crips ended up being Sureños. And you would just trip out on that shit. Like, damn. And then when I got to Nellis, you would see where fools were in lockup, mainly in Taft and shit. When they were in Taft, like actively recruiting and shit, like trying to get fools that were riders and get them to join their neighborhood. So you seen a gang of that shit. You would see fucking people like just jump ship, and like it was a trip and shit. Like, cause you'd be like, what the fuck happened to this fool? Like, what's up with homie from right here? Then he'd be like, oh, that ain't my homeboy. That fool got turned out and shit. That fool's from another neighborhood now. And you would just trip out like, damn, that's weird as fuck. And what was crazy about that shit, especially when you're like in Nellis and shit, when the fools are doing that shit in Taft, like a lot of the fools that they got to hood hop and shit, they weren't like Gomez and shit where they were all fucking weak and scared and shit. Like these were fools that were riders and shit. These are fools that would put it down. They didn't give a fuck. They just like, fuck it, you know what I mean? And some of them were from like well-known neighborhoods. They would go to like smaller neighborhoods and shit because that they wanted to, like, they were cool with that other motherfucker. And I think one of the things that made it easier for them, I'm not sure how common this is in prison and shit, because I never been to prison, but I know in Nellis, one of the reasons why I think it was like easier for people to do is because a lot of people went to YA when they were younger. A lot of people get to YA when they're like, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. So, and a lot of times people are from, they don't really have like good family upbringings. So they're in group homes and shit like that. And they'll end up joining neighborhoods and shit. And so they don't really have like those ties where, like for me, that would have been like it would not have been possible for me to do some shit like that, because my dad was from my neighborhood. You know, my mom's you know, my grandpa, no, not my biological grandpa, but my mom's stepdad, you know, he's from my neighborhood. All my cousins are from my neighborhood and shit. So like for me, there's no other way. Like, even though when I was growing up, you know, I knew people in Monte from other neighborhoods and shit, but like there was no way I was never not gonna be from Monte Flores. If I ever banged, it was gonna be Monte Flores and shit. So fucking that was there was no way. But for other people, they don't have that. You have other people who don't have any family, like they're fucking, you know, in and out of group homes and shit, or they do have family, but none of their family are gang members and shit, or they have family members that are gang members, but they're all spread out. You know what I mean? Like, especially like in LA, y'all, I knew brothers and shit. One was a blood, one was a crip and shit. You know what I mean? So you see that. So it's easier if you have family members from different neighborhoods and shit to like fucking just say fuck it. Like, and I'm not saying that all people are like that. Hell no. I knew fools that were like, they had family from everywhere, but they just banged their neighborhood to the fullest, no matter what. But people like that, like, they were hood hop, you would see that. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't really have their roots in that shit. You know what I mean? So they just be, fuck it, hop from one neighborhood to another. And like I said, a lot of these motherfuckers were riders and shit. And I'm not gonna lie, there were like a few cats that were claiming my neighborhood and shit. A few of my homies didn't claim them. They were like, nah, these fools ain't, like, they ain't homegrown. You know what I mean? Some of my other homies were like, man, these fools are fucking riders, fool. But for me, that shit was always confusing. I was like, I don't fucking know. Like I don't even know these fools, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up on the streets with a lot of these fools. So fucking, not them fools, but like a lot of my homies that were in YA with me. I knew them from the streets. I knew them, you know, I was in and out the halls with them. Like, every time I went in there, I seen these fools. So for new cats to just come around, it's hard to accept them, you know what I mean? But for other people, like, you just have one homie in there, and like, you have, like, let's say you're by yourself, you don't have anybody, you turn this fool out, that fool's your homie. You have that fool's back to the fullest. So you would see fools get their smash on this shit, and fools would just be like, fuck it, let's rock and roll, you know what I mean? So it was crazy, like, hood hopping, that shit was fucking crazy, because you seen that shit when you got to TS. You seen these fools, like in Nellis, you would see a little bit of tattoo work on people. And like, you would see people with like their neighborhood tattooed on them, like sometimes small, like right here and shit. And fucking when you get to YTS, you'll see the same fools from a different neighborhood that they started banging in Dallas, but now they're in YTS, like big as fuck, covering up their old tattoos and shit. And you would just trip out, like, damn, you would see these fools like on the side of their face and back of their head and shit, like, damn, theyese fools really went all out, like they're really banging that shit, you know what I mean? And it was a trip. Like, I would just trip out, like, damn, that's fucking wild. I wonder what's gonna happen when these fools get out. And fucking a lot of them, I don't know what happened to them, you know what I mean? A lot of them, I don't know. Like I said, you had fools that were fucking Sureños, or Southsiders, I should say. Fools that were Southsiders that ended up being Bloods and Crips, or Bloods or Crips. You seen fools that were Crips and ended up being Sureños or Southsiders. Like, it was just crazy. Like, fools that were Bloods ended up being Crips. And fucking, it was a trip, you know what I mean? Like, you were just like, damn, that's just wild, because it's not something you would see too often before YA. Like I said, I seen it once before that, but when I was in YA, I seen that shit, like, it was a trip. Like, oh shit, these motherfuckers are really like, they really like, it's not a game, like they really join that shit, like they really represent that shit. Like I said, tattooed on their face, on their head, and they're smashing. Some fools will catch cases, go to the joint, and they're going to the joint now representing that other neighborhood. And it's a trip, because if you think about it, if you join that gang, or if you started claiming that neighborhood when you're 15, by the time you're 25, that's already 10 years of your life that you put it down for that neighborhood. A lot of times, there's a neighborhood people never even been to. Like, they never even like stepped foot in, which is a trip. But they've been bagging that shit for like over 10 years, so it's like, fuck. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's a trip. I don't even, like, I don't know, you know, comment below if you knew people like that, if you knew hood hoppers and shit, and if they were good when they got back to the neighborhood, because I never seen anybody get back like that. All right, I'm out. Peace.